This is an employees guide for Schedule 1. I'm going to show you how to use all the employees, how to get employees, how to assign tasks, assign beds, pay your employees, how to make a super, I'm not going to go super deep into this level, but how to make a super cacao farm and make the ultimate highest level mix in the entire game. I don't know if I'll actually explain all the details on that, but how to supply with deliveries and stuff. We're going to go through the whole thing, basically, everything you need to know about employees and this whole system. So first off, in order to get to employees, you have to go to the warehouse. So this is over here on the map. So here's the top left of the map. It's right here. The warehouse, the entrance right here. You can only go here after 6 p.m. Best time to do is just, 4 a.m. time pauses. You can just do it then. Go into here. There's a bunch of different people. Guy sells a weapon. Guy who sells materials you'll need. We'll get to that guy in a second. You're going to go up these stairs, though. This is where you get employees, okay? So you'll go up to this guy and say, I want to hire an employee. There's the cleaner, the botanist, the handler, the chemist. You'll pick one of these. He'll tell you, I can't do it right on this save right here, but he'll tell you where you want it to go, which of your properties. And then he'll tell you there's like a signing fee, depends on the person. It's $1,000 or $1,500, $2,000 or $3,000 or something like that. I can't remember. And then there's a daily cost. The chemist costs $300 per day. Everything else costs $200 per day except for the cleaner. Now on launch, I literally never use the cleaner because there's no benefit to using it. But eventually the developer might add some reason that you need to clean things up. But right now on launch, you don't. Okay. So mainly you're going to be using botanists, handlers, and chemists. Also, the guy over here, he sells some things that are very useful in this whole automation process and using employees, which is, he also sells jars, which you can get at gas stations and things, but he has acid and phosphorus, which you'll use to make meth, and then he has gasoline, which you'll use to make cocaine, and then he sells the soil, which so you can get soil after hours, but also he sells the air pot, moisture, whatever one, in the plastic pot. I usually use the air pot, though. The suspension rack, and the full spectrum light or whatever. And so you can get the more advanced growing stuff here. You can't get those at the hardware stores. You can get the pot sprinklers, soil pourers here, which you can also get at hardware stores, though. You can get the drying rack here, which I don't think you can get at the hardware stores. And then you can get beds here if you need beds after hours and you don't feel like waiting till the next day to set your employees up. You can get beds here. And then he has the mixing station MK2, which is very nice later on. And then this is where you get the chemistry station, lab oven, brick press, and the cauldron, okay? And cauldron's how you make cocaine, by the way. So that's for that one. That's very end game to be able to get that. So that's where to get all your supplies, and that's where to get all your employees. Again, that's the warehouse right here. Once you hire an employee, they'll just be sitting outside of whatever house you assign them to, like this, unless they're working, which if you haven't set them up, they're not going to be working. Anyway, once you hire your first employee, you'll have a clipboard on number 9 at the bottom on your hotbar. And you'll be able to go to each of these people. There's a button to manage them, okay? So we're going to go in here, and the basic way to use employees is going to be to growing weed, obviously. In which case, you'll need a botanist, and you'll need handlers. And if you want to mix it, which you definitely should, you'll need at least one chemist, okay? Now, if you're just going to make meth, then you'll just need chemists and handlers. You won't need the botanists at all. I do not recommend meth on launch, though, because the handlers will throw the wrong ingredients in the chemistry station sometimes, and then it defeats the whole purpose of having employees if you manually go fix things all the time. But anyway, okay, so let's start with the weed cycle. So that's the most basic one. We're going to use the botanist first. So let me close some of these things. I've already assigned it, but let me undo it. So the bed. Every employee needs a bed. So you click on none up there. Whoops, let me make sure I'm on this still. Click none up there, and then don't press anything else. Just move over to where the bed is. So here's a bed, and now I left click. Okay, so now I've assigned the botanist to the bed. Now I assign the supplies. So click on none, and then pick a shelf where you're going to, for the botanist, you're going to put soil and seeds on the shelf. This can also be cocoa seeds if you're at the end game trying to make cocaine, but at the beginning it's just going to be the weed seeds and soil. So pick this shelf, for example. So that's where the botanist is going to go to get the supplies. Then the pots and drying racks, you're going to click on this, and I already have them assigned over in here, but like I can unassign them by clicking and then clicking again. But normally, you start, if you have none, you would click this, you would click on a pot or a growing rack or growing, whatever it's called, and you'll click on it, click on this again, click on the other one until you have all the ones assigned that you're going to use. And they each can assign to 8. Then after that, as long as it's, normal hours and you've paid them, then they'll come in here, get supplies, and they will start working. Now, if you know about paying them, every employee, you have to go to this briefcase on their bed, and you have to put money in here. Now, you only need 200 per day for most employees and 300 for the chemist. You can also right-click and drag or shift right-click to put in 100 at a time if you don't, want to manage money. You don't have a lot of money. You don't want to put, tons in. Or if you have a lot of money later on, you just put 4,000 every single one like I have on my main save. I have so much money now after playing so long on my main save that I just throw that in there for every single one so I don't have to deal with them like once every 20 days or whatever. So you put in there, they'll consume, in this case, 200 per day in order to work. And if they don't have the money, they won't work. And then what they'll do is, if as long as they're paid and there's soil and seeds here, then they will go here, grab soil, go put it down. They'll water and everything without any tools. You don't need to put the clippers on the supply rack. You don't need to put a watering can. If you have sprinklers next to your growing pots, it will just make them go faster. So to keep that in mind. Same for the soil pourer. And if you're working in like the bungalow, you might just want to omit those just to conserve space so you can just get more botanists in here. And so that's the botanist cycle. Then you're going to take the clipboard, go off it and back on it, make sure you don't have any employees selected. And then for each of these pots, there's a manage pot. You're going to pick the destination. This is where he's going to take the plants after he's done growing them and put them on a rack somewhere. You can also pick what seeds or additives, but I usually don't deal with this. Just don't even bother with that. In my opinion, it's just not worth the hassle. So then that's all set up. Now your botanist, if you do that, I have 2 in this case, and I've set up 8, 1 to do all this and 1 to do all this, and they'll put them on these 2 shelves, okay? And that's the botanist cycle. Botanist completely done. That's how to use the botanist, how to assign them, how to do everything about that. So the next step would be, well, what do we do with that? We either want to package it or we want to mix it. And what we're going to do, because a smart thing to do, is to mix it. So I have the mixing stations that I bought in here, okay? So mixing station, and in different setups, you can do different things. The bungalow, at most, you're going to want probably 3 mixing stations because of, well, maybe 4 potentially, because they did upgrade chemists recently. Chemists used to only be able to do 3 stations. Now chemists can do 4, but that's a whole nother story. So what we're going to do next is the handler. So let me get the handler off here. So assigning a bed, same thing. You'll go to that, pick a bed, okay? You'll go into the bed, and, let me get off the clipboard. You'll go to the bed, and you'll put money in there. And then you'll go back to the handler with the clipboard. And I'm going to close all these. Yours will look like this, okay? And you won't have this station. So handlers, you can assign a station, and you can pick packaging stations. The handler's only station they do is the packaging the final product for sale. So give them a packaging station, and then there's the routes. Now, this is very confusing for a lot of people, so let's do the routes real fast. So you'll pick where you're going to take things from. So remember earlier, let's do this from from start to finish. We grow the stuff, we're dropping off the buds at these shelves. So now let's pick one of these shelves and say go from that shelf to this mixer. Then also I could say take the other shelf as well if you have 2 shelves that are receiving products and make both of them go to the mixer just to make sure if there's product on either shelf, they'll take it to this mixer. It just depends on your setup. Okay, so then after that, the handler does not need to take it out of the mixing station though. The mixing station, if you go to it with a clipboard, has a destination. And the chemist, whenever they're done using the mixing station and it's finished, they'll come get the product and they'll take it to whatever this destination is. So that has nothing to do with the handler, so don't worry about that. That's going to be its own thing. So all you need to worry about is getting the materials to there. So let's go grab that handler again, and let's do another route. So this was to get the bud into the mixer, but you can't mix bud with nothing. So you have another shelf. Say over here on this shelf, you have Viagra or batteries or iodine, whatever it is you're mixing. I recommend Viagra personally. It's the highest on launch, gives you the most money. But anyway, so you'll click this shelf that would theoretically have Viagra on it, go to where it's going to, and then pick the mixing station. So now Viagra will go to that mixing station when it's available. So now if there ever is a bud here and there's no bud here, the handler will come in here, grab it, and then go put it on this mixing station. If there's nothing on here and there's Viagra over here, they'll go over here, grab Viagra, and put it on here, or whatever ingredient you're mixing with. And then what you'll do is you'll let me go out here, grab it again. Say you're doing multiple mixes, so you could then say this one has horse semen, and then click on the 2 right here, click none, and the next mixing station will receive that. And then you'll need someone who will take the bud from there to there, unless you're multi-mixing. If you're multi-mixing, what you'll do is you'll just say the destination from this mixing station is the next mixing station. Then you omit the needing a route. Then it's just the chemist is done here, he'll drop it off here. And then as long as the handler brings the horse semen over here, or there's some ready, the chemist will start this one. And then this one will send it over to this one. And that's if you want to multi-mix. Now, if you don't multi-mix, you'll have to have handlers bringing bud and Viagra to this, and then a route for bud to here, and the other thing to this. And then you'll need another route from a handler for bud to there, over to here, and then another thing for an ingredient over to here, okay? And then each of these would have to go to whichever rack they're going to. But anyway, at the end result, whichever way you do it, The mixing stations, they're going to have the final one, or whichever ones are going to have a destination, and you're going to put things on a storage rack. This will be your final mixed product that you're going to use. Then what you're going to do is you're going to take your handler and you're going to set a route to go from that shelf to one of the packaging stations. So then they'll be able to package it. Then one other issue here is you also need a route. If you're out of route, you're going to have to use another handler. You're going to have to make a route to go from a shelf that has the packaging materials like jars or bags and bring that to the packaging station. Unless you want to keep both those on the same rack, but then you run the risk of getting a full rack and then not be able to use it. It's kind of, it's up to you which way you want to do it. Like if I were to go here and just try to keep 40 jars on here at a time, then I would only need one route, because then as the mixed things come on here, then he'll move them over to the packaging station, and then, whoever's assigned to the packaging station will package it. And the packaging station does not need a route. You just go to it with the clipboard and pick its destination, and then whenever things are packaged, they'll drop them off at whatever one. And yeah, and I have 2 handlers, so I have 2 packaging stations, one with each person assigned, and things set up to be able to, get things from these shelves to the packaging stations to the shelves, and then you'll have your final product. Now, we did skip something here, which was the chemist's involvement. So the chemist, he's pretty simple. You set up a bed, and you just assign him stations. Now, I already have all his stations assigned, but let me just get rid of them real fast. So all you'll do is you'll go to the chemist, manage, click on assign stations, and you'll pick which things he's supposed to use. So he's supposed to use that, and that. And what he'll do then is whenever the ingredients are on the table and he's able to use them, then he'll just walk in here. He'll spend about 20 minutes turning knobs and whatever, and then he'll do the process that you would do if you just clicked in here and clicked begin. He'll do that. It just takes him like 20 minutes or something to be able to do it. And then the chemist's other job here is to take from here and take it to wherever its destination is that we set up. The chemist also has that job. Now, also, the chemist does chemistry stations, and the chemist also does the lab oven. And so for this, it would be, you would need a handler to have a route from this storage, if you had your ingredients here, to the chemistry station. And then you'll need the chemist to be assigned to the chemistry station. And then the chemistry station needs to have a destination, which ideally will be the lab oven. And then you also have to set a recipe, even though right now in the game, the only recipe is liquid meth, to make sure that was working. And then if the ingredients are here, a handler will come in here and put them on the chemistry station. If there's all the ingredients are in the chemistry station, the chemist will come in here and, interact with it and turn it on. Then it takes 8 hours. Then when it's done, the chemist will take it to wherever its destination is, in this case, the lab oven. And then the lab oven, the chemist will, if there's something at the lab oven, the chemist will come over here and do it, or they'll harvest it, depending on what parts, if it's done or if it's just got ingredients. Then they will go take it to whatever its destination is, which would be like, say, here or something. And then you'd have to have a handler take it from there to a packaging station with a route. And then the same thing as the weed. Once you get it there, it's the same as getting the weed there. They have a route, they take it to a packaging station, and then they package it and put it on a shelf. Okay. And so that is how you do all that. And that's how you fully automate with the basic stuff. And with pretty much everything, the only thing we haven't done is the cacao. So let me go to my super factory on my main save real fast. So here we are at the super cocaine factory I made, fully automated, a pain in the ass with 10 employees and all of them required, basically. So the other thing, a few other things here. One is you can open up your phone and you can go to deliveries. You can go in here, and this is required later on in my mind to be able to supply these things, so I don't have to constantly go to the gas station. And I'll go in here, and in my super factory, for example, I will need set the destination, the docks, warehouse, loading dock 2 in this case, and I'll need, there's a setup for me, it'll be like 60 Viagra, 10 jars, 60 horse semen, 60 chili, 60 battery, 60 iodine, and I'll go down here, and it'll cost me an additional $200 plus what they would normally cost. I'd place order, and then in 6 hours or whatever, depending on how many items you bought, a thing will appear here, and you can go to them, and you can grab all your ingredients and go stuff them on the shelves and all that. That's something really important for employees. I recommend, doing that later on once you get far enough in the game. So in here is the Super Cocaine Factory, and the setup here is I have a shelf right here that is used by the botanist for supplies for all these cocaine plants or cocoa plants here. Then a parallel one over here for all these over here. Then all these go onto this shelf, and all these go onto this shelf, and then these leaves go to all the drying racks in the back. And then from the drying racks, you have to have a botanist assigned to the drying racks, and then the drying racks will have a destination where the botanist takes them away, and then the botanist will take them, and you don't have to use drying racks, they're optional for cocaine, but Just making super ultimate highest quality cocaine. Anyway, so the drying rack to the cauldron, and then the cauldron, I have a route from one of the handlers that takes gasoline from here, puts it on this cauldron, and I have a handler who has a route from here, take this gasoline, put it in that cauldron, and then the botanist brings sends these four, not brick presses, has the wrong UI on it, drying racks to this cauldron, and these four to this cauldron, and then it mixes the cocoa leaves with gasoline in order to make cocoa something or other, whatever it's called. I forget the end product. It's like some crystal thing. And then both of those go from these cauldrons over to, this one goes to a lab oven over here, and then I have a chemist assigned to that. This one goes to a lab oven over here. I have a chemist assigned to that. Then the lab ovens go from there over to this mixing station, which takes horse semen. And then from there, its destination is this mixing station, which takes Viagra, this one batteries, and then this one iodine, and then this one chilies. And then it goes from there over to, I think, here. Yeah, I think it goes here. And then I have a handler that takes it from here and takes jars from over here over to this packaging station, packages it, and then puts it over here. Then also there's handlers who go from these shelves, and there's a route for taking the horse semen over to that mixing station. There's one for taking Viagra from there to there, and one for batteries from there to there, and then one for iodine from there to there, and chilies from there to there. And then I think that's everything. And then all the beds are up here. And every single one of these ones, at this point in my game, I have $4,000 in every single one of these beds, and there's a parallel beds on the other sides for 5 on each side for all the employees, and that's employees, man. This is the end game. This is as far as it goes, and currently in the game. This is literally maxed out, maximum super cocaine factory that makes this cocaine right here. It has a different name depending on your seed. Mine's called Big Cum. Yours will be called something else. And this is worth, if I can even find it, this is worth 477 each. Most people can't even buy it if it's in a jar, but you give it to your dealers, and then they get the max amount of money per day out of their customers, and you rarely ever have to supply them, and then bam, you're done. And you beat the game. It's not even relevant to this employees guide, to be honest with you, but that's the end game of employees. So hopefully this was able to answer all your questions, guys. So if you're having any trouble with employees, that's how to do it. That's how to start. That's the end game for it. That's how to set up everything you need to do. That's everything you need to know about how to use employees. The last thing is a cleaner, which I totally freaking ignored to the last second. I don't use them because they're currently not using the game. You'll put a trash can on the ground. You'll take them, and then you'll go to them like this, and they'll have assigned stations, and you'll assign the trash can. The trash can has a radius around it of area they'll pick up. They'll pick it up, and they'll throw it away. That's literally all they do. It's not worth the employee slot on launch, but eventually maybe the developer will probably add something where it starts fires or something, and you have to do it. But for now, you don't need them. But hopefully it helps you guys. That's everything you need to know. Now you know how employees work in Schedule 1.